Hello, welcome back to BioNexus Health Podcast Series, Autism Uprooted. Today we have Cyrus from the UK. Cyrus is a young mother of 3 children. Her son has been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and she is going to talk to us about the amazing improvements that we are seeing with little Salah. And actually, in fact, Cyrus herself decided to get treated with herbal protocols, and her health issues have improved quite a bit as well. So, but I'm going to let Cyrus talk to us herself and let us know how her journey has been overall. So please help me welcome Cyrus from the UK to today's podcast.
Welcome to the BioNexus Health Podcast with Dr. Jodie A. Dashore, who holds a PhD in Integrative Medicine, is board certified in Integrative Pediatrics, an internationally recognized pioneering clinician, and author. And now here's your host of BioNexus Health Podcast, Dr. Jodie A. Dashore.
So I would like to welcome Cyrus to today's podcast. Hi, Cyrus. How are you?
Hi, Dr. Dashore. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Sorry about the lighting today. It's a little bit dark outside. Day after Thanksgiving is when we are doing this recording. So how's November over there in the UK?
Basically, it's been raining all day. It's pretty much stopped now, but it's absolutely freezing.
It's freezing, right? Yeah, same here. It's been really cold. Oh well. Well, I love to see a smile on your face instead of stress. It's been quite the journey for you. So shall we get started?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right, cool. So Cyrus, can you tell me how did you discover BioNexus Health, and what made you decide that you wanted to use a completely herbal approach to helping your son who was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder?
Basically, I remember going to the doctors, and it was a specialist doctor who diagnoses the child with autism. And she had a look at my son, and she was talking to him. She tried to ask him some questions, but he just wasn't paying any attention to her. No eye contact, flapping, jumping about, trying to mess with the water. He was very fascinated by water at the time. And then I remember when me and my husband went there, and she turned around and she said that we are looking at autism spectrum disorder, and you'll get the letter in the post. And obviously my husband didn't want to believe it, and he said why. And she said, look, there's a wide spectrum, but it's only when it becomes a problem in society for a child that we would diagnose it, and that's all we can do. That's it, and you can go. And we went, and obviously we both broke down, and it was really hard for us to accept that diagnosis, because when they diagnose you with autism in the UK, I don't know if it's the whole of the UK, but with our experience, they think that there's no more hope for your child. They just think speech therapy and that's it. And then I remember coming home, and I remember really being upset about it. And then I remember when she told me something specific. She asked me a question about whether he had lined his toys, and when I came home, he had lined all the drinks up, and I had broken down again. Because I thought,
goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
How old was he at this time when he was first diagnosed?
6 years old.
He was 6 years old at that time.
Yeah.
6 years old. He was diagnosed on the spectrum.
Yeah, he was diagnosed quite late. I was on the school's case. Basically, used to go to a nursery. I kept asking the nursery, but they weren't paying any attention. They were telling me he was fine, but he wasn't fine, and I knew he wasn't fine. I mean, at 2 years old, he hit all his milestones, everything. He was doing well, he was developing well, but about 3.5 years old, he just regressed. He wasn't the same boy. He stopped hugging, he stopped telling you that he loved you, stopped giving you kisses. His words weren't coming out properly. He just wouldn't talk. He stayed away from his toys, and he was a playful little boy, and I didn't know what was going on. And I remember it was prayer time, so I made a prayer, And then straight after that, something happened in my heart. So I went straight onto Google and I typed in natural cures for autism, because I just wasn't going to believe that there's no cure for it. I'm one of them people that I'm not going to give up hope. I'm not going to take what the GPs and the doctors, everything here, are going to tell me. And your name came up, and I read a bit about you and about your story, about your son, and I felt so much hope and so much relief. And I just felt that, basically Allah answered my prayer, because at that time I was praying and I asked for something to come in between, like in front of my eyes, and you were who came up. And I wholeheartedly believed that, Dr. Dashore, yourself, you are going to help. And then that's how I asked for an appointment. And then we were at basically we used to live at a different house before, didn't we, when I contacted you? But by the time I got the appointment and saw you, we were in our new house. But Salah, as a child, was very, very sick. He was very sick. And the reason why I went natural was because he was on antibiotics about 10 times. I mean, he hadn't even hit 2 years old and he was given antibiotics. He was given prednisolone. He was given Ventolin. He was given hydrocortisone pretty much every 2 weeks. And
Okay.
even then,
Wow. Okay, so he was given all these medications for, coughs and colds and sore throats and asthma and eczema, I believe, right?
yes.
Okay.
So basically he was given that quite a lot from such a young age. I remember the first time he had hydrocortisone, he must have been about 2 months old.
2 months?
Yeah, I'm sure he was 2 months old when he was first given it, because he was getting eczema in his joints, and he always had a patch on his eye. But I never ever put the hydrocortisone on his eye, because I just thought it's going to go inside. What I did was, after that, I remember a long time ago, there was a homeopathic here in Birmingham, and I took Salah there for the eczema. I didn't so much take him for the autism at that time, because I didn't know about the autism. And this was obviously before I met you, but you wanted to know how I came about the natural way.
Yes.
They were giving him something, and it was a cream, doctor. The problem was, when I put this cream on him, his eczema healed overnight. Now, it got me thinking, because he was on this for over a year or two. And then I thought to myself, how can a cream that's supposed to be natural work overnight like a miracle cure? It can't. So I just stopped, and I realized that there was toxic chemicals in there, and there was definitely steroid in there. And then
Goodness, yes. I remember reading about that as well. It kind of was in the health newspapers and what have you, right? So you actually personally had that experience that
yes.
the natural cream actually had chemicals in there, right? Yeah, because I mean, overnight cure isn't possible with the natural.
No, it's not. It takes its time.
Right.
And then I just stopped all of it, and I just left it. And obviously this is how I've come to you now.
That's pretty amazing, Cyrus, that you were, alert enough to realize that natural medicine, or anything that is working deep at the root level of the problem, it simply cannot be a miracle cure. There isn't a miracle cure for any chronic condition. So,
No, there isn't.
Goodness, poor Salah.
Yeah. And I think this is where people get confused. They think that certain natural remedies have to be miracle cures overnight, but it just doesn't work like that.
Right.
The body can repair itself, but you need the right nutrition and the right supplements and, the right things to put inside the body for it to use its natural way and defenses to work.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you and I are on the same page. I like your comment about an answer to a prayer. It's surprise, I'm not surprised at all, because I've heard this from several other parents. Like, they have broken down, and when you hit rock bottom, the prayer comes so deep from within your soul. It's so strong and spiritual that it seems to reach.
It does.
And you seem to get an answer. And I remember that as well. when I was struggling with Brian, and I was guided to come up with my own protocol, and I mean, who goes and to help their child on the spectrum, who actually goes and buys a whole farm and says, okay, I'm going to farm now, I'm going to grow herbals. People thought I was nuts, I mean, family, friends, like, it's an enormous undertaking. I'm like, no, I have to, I'm not going to give up hope. So yeah, fantastic. So now then we started with Salah with lots of herbals. We did a lot of testing. So we ended up with a very customized protocol for Salah. Now, we found so many infections and toxins in the testing, right? How did you feel when you found all that?
I was absolutely shocked, because I just thought, look how young he is and how many things are going on in his body. And obviously, because he can't communicate back, he can't even tell me what's going on. So all this flapping and the meltdowns and all the breakdowns is his way of telling me that he's hurting. And obviously, I didn't know at that time what to do. But when you've told me everything that's going on, and then you made this protocol and you told me that this is what we're specifically treating, I was really over the moon. And I remember saying to you that I'm so glad. And I remember breaking down and having tears in my eyes and telling you that, at the end of the day, I didn't even realize that this is what's going on. We just always assumed, okay, it's just eczema and asthma, and there was nothing else, and we didn't know what was causing it. And I specifically remember when I moved to this house and you had asked me certain questions that no one had ever asked before. And the way you found out the root cause of all of it, where it had started from, actually was the answer. Because where we were living, there was water damage, there was mold, it was all hidden, but it was there, and it was in his playroom, and it was in his bedroom. But because it was in between the walls, we never ever saw that. So Salah was having all these problems, the vomiting with the food, because we didn't know he was intolerant, the eczema flare-ups, going into A&E every so often because of the wheezing. And I remember when I went into tachycardia, but we couldn't work out what it was, and all this time it was the mold.
Yes, exactly. Yes. I'm really glad that we were able to discover about the mold, and that, you had actually remembered about your old house, where the problems were, because many people are not aware. Even when I ask, it becomes difficult to understand that it could be hidden behind the walls. It's not always visible, right? So you've seen, I know you've put in tremendous amount of effort. We were able to customize, which really helps, right, genetically, as well as looking at all of the tests to customize it to your son. And I believe after a lot of hard work with diet and supplements and herbals, right, organizing your day, I mean, I give you a lot of credit, because you have two other children as well. You have one, you have a baby, and you have an older child. So my goodness, but was it worth it? What improvements did you see in Salah?
It was definitely, look, I'm going to get emotional. It was definitely, it was worth it, because I've never used hydrocortisone or any steroids ever since. I've not put him on prednisolones. I've not given him hydrocortisone. I've not gone back and got any of them other remedies that supposedly had this hydrocortisone in it. I've just used just a normal moisturizer that you can get from a local store. That's what I've been using. And there's been times where I haven't needed to use that, unless he's basically sneaked in a biscuit or something at a relative's house, and then he starts itching, I know. Other than that, no, he's not had any flare-ups. In terms of his asthma, I've not needed to use an inhaler. But I keep it as a precautionary measure, because in school there's allergens there and that bother him, so he needs it at school. So I've always basically just kept the inhalers anyway. But with what I've used, it from you yourself, it has really, really, really helped. And if there are parents out there that have a child with autism, or even if they don't have a child with autism, but you can see all the rest of the symptoms, for example, the allergies, the eczema, the wheezing, I personally think you should give Dr. Dashore a try. I really do, because she's actually helped me as well, and not just Salah.
Oh, thank you. That's sweet of you. Yes, natural, what happens in my practice is it's not just the child. Once the child begins to improve, then the rest of the family follows suit, because, all of the focus is focused on the child with autism, and everyone else kind of puts their health on the back burner. Now, one thing that I have discovered is that siblings and parents and relatives, but usually, who is in the immediate vicinity of the child, often in ethnic communities, it is a joint family system as well. So the child is coming in contact with many different family members. And for a child on the spectrum, if there is underlying pandas type issues, just like we found with Salah, we found PANS, we found biotoxin illness. Now, if any of the relatives or family members are carriers of strep or any other chronic infection, then that can translate into flare-ups for the child. So now you and your husband are relatively not, you are actually getting better, but your husband's in doing well. We have started to help your other child a little bit now as well. And I'm going to talk a little bit about you, but first I wanted to, ask you what improvement in language and understanding and cognition and his gut, his bathroom habits, what improvements have you seen?
Okay. Obviously, when he used to go to the toilet before, his stool used to have a very foul smell, a smell that you just could not get rid of. It used to be very hard to flush the toilet as well at times. And if he wasn't having a stool problem, he was having a lot of constipation. Now he goes to the toilet properly. There's no smelly, you can't smell anything. It's not as how it was before. In terms of understanding, he's aware of what is going on around him. But I know we still have a long way to go in that sense, but he does understand what is going on around him. I can tell him something, he knows what I'm saying.
Okay.
In terms of speech, he's trying now to put sentences together and trying to explain something to me. The other day, his sister was sitting on his lap. So basically she was sitting on top of him and he was getting very agitated. And he goes, she's sitting on my blanket. So because he had the blanket there as well. So and then I told her to get off. So he's trying to put everything together, but his awareness is a lot better than it was. And in terms of speaking to me, he does try to communicate the best he can. And I know we're still going to work on that a bit more, but from when he started the protocol to now, I'm already really, really happy with the improvements. And when I first met you, I remember telling you that my husband was not into holistics or anything natural, but now he's actually starting to believe himself.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. I that's another thing that I just love to hear is the non-believers, once they see the results, you can't argue with the results, right? So I remember a couple times, in the beginning, I never saw him, but of recent, the last couple appointments, he's popped in to say hello, and that's been wonderful. Yeah. Yes, quite a good surprise.
And when he has a cold now, he says to me, "Can you go pull out your potions and your cocktails, please?"
Oh, really? That's so wonderful. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, good. So, I'm really happy to hear that little Salah is speaking in sentences. Like he actually said that she is sitting on the blanket. That's so cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does he, is it only English that he's able to understand, or any
Just
other
English.
language? Right now,
No,
English,
just
right?
English.
You're
Yeah,
managing.
yeah,
Okay, good, good.
yeah.
All right. You've seen any improvements? Actually, you mentioned, right? You mentioned that his asthma is better. You don't have to use the inhaler. He's doing all of his herbals and capsules and drops fine.
Yeah. He's taking all that fine, definitely. And
Wonderful.
the recipe where you told me to put the mango inside the gut butter, I've yet to try that. Because
Okay.
sometimes he looks at certain textures and then he'll say no, but we are getting onto that.
Yeah.
But other than that, he takes everything else fine. I mean, because he's a huge fan of Marvel and Spider-Man and all the rest of it, and they be fixated on certain things, don't they? I tell him that the one of the the charcoal I tell him that that's venom.
Okay.
So I tell him
Well,
there's
whatever
venom.
works, right?
Yeah. And with the Formula One, I've had to put Spider-Man stickers on the bottle.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, that is a great idea, actually, right? I had another mother do something similar with her son, who was a big Harry Potter fan.
Yeah.
Like, stickers and, coming up
Yeah.
with all of these fantasy scenarios, like, hey, this is
Yeah, you have
what
to.
we're going to do,
Yeah.
right? But,
Yeah.
abracadabra and what have you, so that,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, children who are inaccurately diagnosed with autism, when underlying it's actually biotoxin illness or PANS, or, a lot of other comorbid issues, they when they begin to emerge, it's very interesting to see that, they come out at age appropriate levels. I remember with Brian, when he started speaking in sentences about 7 or 8 years of age, that came out at age appropriate levels, a 7-year-old is supposed to speak that. He wasn't conversational until we were able to detox him from all of the mold and cytokines and chronic inflammatory response syndrome, biotoxin illness. That took all the way to 11 years of age because I was finding my way, just like you. Most people tell you that, well, it's autism, you have to get real, you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right? What do you
Basically, they just write your child off and that's it. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, now he's starting to try and put sentences together, and for the future I have high hopes for him. And even if it's going to take a few more years to be verbal, I don't mind, as long as I am doing what I've got to do for him. I am not going to take no as an answer, and I'm not going to take, oh, there's nothing we can do for your child, because there is.
Yes, absolutely. I've heard him speak in small sentences as well. And, he's communicating with his teachers in school as well, right? Didn't you say that?
He's trying his best. Yeah, he is
Yeah.
trying. And they have put some support in place for him. So I'm just trying to see how he gets on, because he struggles to hold the pencil correctly and write. So that's what they're working on at the moment. But I know hopefully once he's completely detoxed and, he'll start forming the letter formations. I mean, his letter formation is improving, but, we still got a long way to go. But I'm hopeful.
Yes.
And I'm hopeful because of you. I've learned so much about natural because of you. Before I was naive to, just pharmaceutical industry, but you're a first-time mom. You're desperate at that time. So you just do what you got to do.
Exactly. Well, it's been an absolute privilege to be able to help your family. I'm so glad you found me. In fact, the biggest blessing for me has been that I've been able to help you with your health as well. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because, mothers to me are so precious. They are the heart of a family. And, we work so hard for our children, often at our own expense. We say, no, I'll be okay, I'm an adult. But I'm glad that you decided that, now that your son was getting better. So please, if you can speak a little bit about how you've improved.
Yeah. As soon as I saw Salah improving, I decided that I wanted to give it a try as well, just to see, because I was having a lot of breathing problems. I was really tired. I was going to bed achy, waking up achy. I had migraines every single day that just were not going. But the problem was, you just have to just carry on. There's no time for you to just sit down and think, okay, I've got a migraine, I've got 3 kids, I have to carry on with life. I can't just sit there, I have to look after them. And what I remember, you asked me to do a nasal swab, and you asked me to do a VCR test, and I went about them tests, and then you had actually found out that I had mold as well. And you had already told me this, and you asked me if I wanted to test, and I said, yes, I will. And your theory all along and your diagnosis all along was right, and the tests had proved that. And then I started your protocol, and I remember when I first started it, I was just full of energy. I remember thinking, wow. Before, I used to think there's not enough hours in the day, but at that time I was like, wow. And I just carried on, and I was doing more things, and I wasn't feeling tired after that. I slept better, less achy as well. So to be honest with you, I have seen a huge improvement, and I haven't got myself treated for autism. So you're not just for autism, and it's for other issues as well. So thank you.
Absolutely, yes. It's been, like I said, it's been a huge blessing for me to be able to help a mom. It always is. I've had mothers. Oh, speaking of, I was going to say, I've had mothers, grandmothers, grandchildren, all being treated naturally. Because once it starts, once you see the results in one family member, that's when you start believing. And most people would prefer something natural over pharmaceutical drugs anyways, I found, right? But the problem is finding the right practitioner to be able to guide you. That's the key, and the right products. So speaking of grandma, Cyrus, I know that I'm actually looking forward to working with your mom as well, helping her with her health. So hopefully we'll be able to do that soon, and I look forward to that.
Yeah. Thank you. To be honest with you, for me, I know you keep saying it's a blessing for you, but it's been a blessing for me and my family, because before, he used to struggle to sleep and all the rest of it, keep us up all hours of the night, or the rest of it, the meltdowns. And now at least we trying to go back to normality, if that makes sense. And it's not so much of before I used to constantly worry about his future, and what am I going to do, wait for this, or what, there were so many questions used to go through my head. But I'm very, very hopeful now, and I just, like I said, I just feel that God has answered my prayers. I really do, and I'm really, really hopeful, inshallah. So yeah.
Inshallah. I've learned to say that word, inshallah. It's so beautiful. Yes, absolutely. Wonderful. So I look forward to hearing more good news from your family and extended family. And many, many blessings from my side, for Salah's continued growth, as well as yours. Your asthma has gotten better as well, right? Overall.
Yes. Yeah, a lot better. Energy levels are a lot better as well. Migraines have calmed down a lot. So yes. Another thing I did want to say was, when I've used homeopathics in the past, but they've never ever done follow-up appointments. They just give you the prescription and you just keep getting that. They never actually checked on how you're getting on. And what I've noticed with yourself is you actually do, and it is your policy. So it's not just something that, okay, you want, it's part of your BioNexus policy to have regular follow-up appointments, and then it's not like you keep the person on the same. You start changing the supplements, you adhere to, you ask us what's going on. So what I wanted to tell people out there, and people who are listening, that Dr. Dashore actually does a personalized plan to you. So if something isn't working for you, she can change that. If something has worked and she thinks, okay, you need a little bit of something else, she'll say, okay, continue that one, stop that one. And then she'll make sure she keeps following you up. And even when you've got a problem, you can just go straight to the message center and they do respond pretty much straight away. So anything you need help with, like I said, I'm just getting myself and my son treated, but I've asked her questions about my children and she's always responded for that as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to hear you explain a little bit in depth. Yes, you're absolutely right, because herbal medicine needs to be monitored, right? These are very powerful blends of herbs, and it is not wise to just stay on the same thing forever. It's important to monitor. Yeah, there are different steps you go with, with most underlying problems that I find with children on the spectrum. The entire customization mainly is, okay, so for example, Salah, your son, has problems A, B, C, and D. So which one should I treat first? And which, and for each problem, right, not only does a knowledgeable practitioner understand that what is the priority, what is the order of priority of treatment? Is it the brain? Is it the gut? Is it the asthma? Is it the eczema? Is it the brain fog? Is it the language? What should be treated first? Is it the toxins? Is it the infection? So there are so many things going on with children. So keeping things customized, keeping things up to date is very important to see progress.
Yeah, it's not a one size fits all with yourself. You make sure it's personalized to everyone's, whatever their needs are. So it's not like, because my things are not the same as Salah's, and whereas somebody else that you're treating, theirs are not the same as Salah's or mine. So it's on the individual needs, and that is why you actually do, at the start, you ask all these questions, and then you start asking other questions, and I think to myself, oh yes, hang on, yes, and yeah. So you do know, and you do personalize it to everyone, and that's what I'm grateful about. It's not the same thing for everybody.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Cyrus, for joining me today. I think this is going to be very helpful to everyone watching. You have been you have been very articulate. You spoke from the heart, and I'm very grateful that you were able to join me here today.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. I'm glad to be here.
So that brings us to the conclusion of today's podcast with Cyrus. I hope it has been educational and informational for all of you that have been able to join us today for the podcast. So thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you at the next podcast. Namaste.
Thank you for joining Master Herbalist Dr. Jodie A. Dashore, Director of the BioNexus Health Clinic and BioNexus Herbals, on the BioNexus Health Podcast, where we explore and share information and stories about recovering and healing from chronic and environmental illnesses such as mold biotoxin illness, Lyme disease, autism spectrum disorder, fatigue, Crohn's and colitis, mast cell activation syndrome, PANS, and more. Please help us grow our message by subscribing to our podcast channel and sharing the podcast on your social networks. For more information, visit bionexushealth.com.
Information within this video, audio, or text, collectively known as the podcast, has not been reviewed by the FDA. Nothing within the podcast is intended as or should be construed as medical advice. Information is for general informational and educational purposes only. Consumers of the podcast should consult with their healthcare practitioners for medical recommendations. Seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider. Do not disregard the advice of a healthcare provider based on any information from the podcast. The information within the podcast may contain information concerning dietary supplements or over-the-counter products that are not drugs. Our dietary supplement products are not intended for use as a means to cure, treat, prevent, diagnose, or mitigate any disease or other medical or abnormal condition.